I haven't been to Texas yet.
You must come. Do you know that? Bryan, I was just saying, you must come to Texas because Australians and Texans have a great affinity for one another.
Yeah, I've been told that. In fact, I was told it yesterday by someone. I can't remember who. We were talking about the Australian personality or temperament, and someone said it's very similar to the Texan, you know. And one of my best American mates is actually a Texan, so I feel like I've got some affinity with Texas.
Where do you live now? Where's your home?
I live in Sydney, or out of Sydney.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I've just moved. I've just moved to 200 miles out of Sydney onto a farm.
Sheep
So,
or?
No, cattle.
Uh-huh.
So I'm getting more and more isolated.
Well, of course, we're here in Los Angeles to talk about Tai-Pan.
Right.
And I don't know how many interviews you've done prior to this, but people are saying a lot of nice things about your performance, so congratulations.
Thank you. Very
Yes.
nice.
Let's get a few of the statistics out of the way. Precisely how long were you there in China shooting the film?
4 months in mainland China, and then a month in between Macau and Hong Kong. So it was a 5-month shoot.
And everything was shot in the Orient, no interiors back here?
No, everything was done in the East, yeah. When we were in mainland China, we were in Canton, which is one of the major cities there, an industrial port that's about 8 million people. And then we went to, the second half of our Chinese stint was in a place called Zhuhai, which is one of the economic zones that China has created to deal with investing with the West and building with the West. And so we were 10 weeks there. So, yeah.
Did Rachel and the baby go with you?
Yeah, they over the period of the whole 5 months, they were probably in and out there about half the time. Rachel had to go to Mexico to do a film called Hotel Colonial with John Savage and Robert Duvall. She went down there while we were filming, and then she came back there. And so she would come in and out at different times, yeah.
What was it like, Bryan, as far as living there, you know, lodging and food and so forth, and especially with a baby there?
The thing is, in most of the major cities, there are a number of modern Western hotels that have been built over the last 4 or 5 years, usually in cooperation with Hong Kong businessmen and the Chinese government. So you would go into a hotel, like any hotel you'd find in Dallas or you'd find in Los Angeles, and it would be the rooms would be as modern as you like. You would have 6 restaurants in there, a Japanese restaurant, Western, Chinese, whatever. So after your day's work, you could come back to something that you did know, and you could just relax in without having to deal with things too much, because during the day you're dealing with the movie, and the movie is dealing with the fact that it's sophisticated Hollywood dealing with unsophisticated China, and that meant problems at times. So accommodation was fine. It was never a problem.
Was language the biggest problem?
Yeah.
Because you had so many nationalities involved.
Yeah. Well, just language about being in a place. See, all those things that we take for granted, like walking down the street to get a paper. Say before I'm going to do a movie in Los Angeles or something, I might wake up in my hotel room and I'm on at 10 a.m. and I'll walk down the street and I'll think, oh, I'll have a coffee and read the paper here. Well, I'm not going to get a paper, and I'm not going to find a place to have a cup of coffee. All the things that we're used to in our life don't operate in China. And also the alphabet. I mean, when we go into Europe, be it we speak German, French or Italian or not, we can make out the word restaurant or make out exit or warning. But we're dealing with not our alphabet in China, we're dealing with characters. And it is just alien to us. And you forget how much you rely on that alphabet.
The Chinese, how did they generally feel about this story? Is it something that embarrasses them, or does it anger them, or what is their reaction to the story?
Well, we got it made with their support. I mean, we couldn't have made it without their support. We're in their country a long time. They were, right from the outset, very much wanted to say, listen, we don't want the Chinese shown in a bad light. In other words, they were saying, let's look at historically. Sure, this is a work of fiction that's been inspired by historical detail, but when we come to historical detail, let's deal with it truthfully. Let us tell you our side of it while you're telling us yours. So they were very concerned about that area of it. One of the things they wouldn't let us do was shoot any of the love scenes, any of the romance between Mei Mei and Tai-Pan had to be shot in Hong Kong. But they didn't say we won't support the movie. They just said, you know, well, you can do all that, but this part you'll have to do out of mainland China. So it was their involvement be it in helping or making it difficult at times, was certainly there, you know.
Bryan, do you think the film, the book, let me put it that way, do you think the book might have been better served if it had been a mini-series like The Thornbirds?
I think if Tai-Pan had been written today, it would be the first thing that a studio would take up in terms of a mini-series. But the lucky thing about a thing like Tai-Pan is that it has a history of 15 years of being tried to make into a film. And I think that is a big story, and it's nice to have big stories presented on the big screen. That's what we all grew up going to, Ben-Hur's and 55 Days of Peking's, and I'm glad that Tai-Pan didn't end up being another miniseries. Not that it could have been served well by a miniseries, but just the bigness of the story is nice to see on a big screen, the boats and a past period, and it just makes it larger than life, and that's the quality that the book has.
Bryan, one last question. Would you go back to China to make another movie?
Yeah. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I need a break. I mean, I had 5 months there. But, yeah, I'd go back there without a problem.
Well, whatever your next project is, we'll look forward to it.
Thank you.
And do come to Texas. We'd love to have you.
I'll get to Texas.
All right. And thank you so much for talking with us today here in Hollywood.
Thank you, Bobbie.
Stop tape, please, Miles.
Actually, I'm so used to not looking at a person that I'm better off just to get a spot.
Probably
About
the
there.
water, yeah,
Okay.
something
All right. We're rolling?
Yes.
Was the entire movie shot in China? What was it like as far as food and lodging, and particularly since you had your wife Rachel Ward and the baby there? Was language the biggest problem? What are some of the other problems that you ran into? Would you go back to China to make another movie? How did the Chinese people react to the story and to the whole project? I didn't ask you this, but there's a place where it'll cut, okay? So you don't get nervous. Is the book historically true? Do you think this movie might have been better served as a mini-series? All right, now I'll just give you reactions.
Okay. Might be enough already.
Okay.
Very good.
Stop tape, please.